Greetings, friends, and welcome to a fun update video of sorts. You know, it's one of those things where you build props all the time, and if they're outside for more than 15 minutes, they disintegrate. I pride myself in making props that, last longer. So I figured, what would be the best way to show this? I'm going to go over the props that I've built in the last couple of years, the ones that have been living outside, and I'll show you exactly how they look and exactly how they're weathering. So you have an idea of what works, what doesn't, and everything like that. So I'll be breaking this into, I think I got about 6 props that I've got that live outside full time, and we'll talk about it from there. The signs using the xylene transfer and the toner. These have held up amazingly well, especially for the fact that I put a lacquer finish on these, and the lacquer finish is completely disintegrated pretty much. I can't believe how much it's gone. But the good news is for the most part, that toner, even though it powders very lightly, it is held up fantastic. And as you can see, this is east facing, so this has been hammered with the sun. You can see just the tiniest bit of lacquer hiding in there. And even the wood now is starting to age out to the gray without me having to do the tea stain on it. Turned out fantastic. I wouldn't change a thing. Xylene transfer with the toner, amazing for outside. The train cart, love this thing. I've had a few problems that have popped up over time, but overall, you can see that the finish has been great. I've got it currently repurposed into a plant pot, and with all the drainage I did on it, the thing is holding up beautiful. The wheels, for the most part, are doing great with that spray paint finish on. I've got an issue here where the seam on the 2x6 is opening and closing with the elements, and wow, does it. And even the rail track is doing really well. The only damage over there is where I hit it with the weed whip, and I got a little bit carried away. But overall, the rest of that silver paint on that wood has held up amazing. Now, the only thing that I would change here is I've lost a couple of my wooden pegs because I put the screw too far in, and when I did, it pulled through and allowed the trim to come off. So all I have to do is put a washer in there and then glue that back in. I think I've actually lost one somewhere. But overall, it's held up like amazingly well, and the look is just getting better with age. I'm not having any rot issues because it's off the ground, but you'll see back here, these wheels are cracking horribly. So the next time I do this, I'm going to come up with a way to make sure that that is not an issue as much. But beyond that, look at that. It's just holding up beautifully, except for all the, the weed whipping stuff all over it. And once again, you can see there, I lost one of those pegs. Regardless, that's the minecart, and I'm really happy with how that thing looks. Well, hello there, Bones. You've been living outside for a bit here. The coffin. You can see just by the point of view. Ignore my very bushy side yard. I have to go weed whip this. But you can see just how beautiful that finish has become over time. It looks so good. I'm so happy with that. I've got no issues. This is just currently sitting on 2x4s in the base. But the biggest thing that has happened with this is birds have been pooping on it. And this has been literally living outside since I built it. This has not been stored away, so you can see just how good that tea stain finish ends up looking on that wood. And even my gaps, like where I did the biscuit joining on this, God, that's good. No big issues. I don't know if I had a squirrel hiding in there or something. Regardless, that coffin just looks better than ever because it's been sitting out and it's been getting that weather to make it look that much better. Man, I love that thing. Anyways, say hi to the audience, Bones. The crosses. These have got to be going on close to 10 years old out here. Specifically this one. You can see just how that rusted twine is really looking like it's belonged here. And you can see now that the wood is actually getting some real age to it. Overall, there's no big issues. No real rod at the bottom either, which is really good, because I sealed that with silicone when I put it down. The copper pipe has seen some better days, mind you. Regardless, those crosses work so well, and you can see just the finish on them is fantastic. And in here you can see them all buried with all the other ones. They all turned out really good, and they're really holding up to the weather. This one you'll recognize specifically because this is the one that I did the video with most recently. It's holding up again. Once again, it's been attacked by some birds, but other than that, the chain is rusting up nice. Everything's holding together. Really, let's see if we can pull that out of the ground. Oh, yeah, see, that one was done with rebar, which is right there. And you know what? The bottom of it is holding up beautifully. There's no issues there. There we go. Fantastic. So if you're looking for props you can leave out all the time, this with the T-finish and everything has been just absolutely stunning. But look at this. I just noticed that I've lost a piece here. No idea where it's gone, but you know what? That's character, because that's how it looks. But man, those are nice. Anyways, crosses, 10 out of 10. They've lasted perfectly. Now the next prop that has survived and lived is right there. You can barely see it, but it's there. I'm going to go in here, dig through, and sure enough, there's the concrete skulls with the colored concrete. This has got to be pushing 3 years old now. And look at the finish on those skulls. It is held up beautifully. Like, gosh, that looks good still. And I like how you get all the extra stuff ending up on it, because it just makes it look that much more realistic. And then you get the natural age, which is very hard to replicate. So you can see just how beautiful that is. That finish is held up amazingly for being out in the elements 100%. So that was a fun little project. And you know what? It tells me that that stained concrete really does hold its color over time. And this hasn't been stored away. Wow, that's so cool. All right, the stained glass. This is aged up a bit. You know, it's been exposed to the sun, and it is only acrylic paint on plastic. You can see the red is faded out quite a bit. But overall, it's held up really well. And, you know, at close inspection, you can see that the color is starting to fade a bit. But when you get back to about here, it looks fine. It's held up beautifully. Now over here, the front, that doesn't get as much access to the sun, is held up much better. This is just natural aging with light, but the rest of it looks really good. You know, it's going to be fun when I put up the video on how old this actually is. It's going to scare me too. But regardless, it's held up really well. It looks really nice. Look at that. It's a gingerbread man. Because, you know, it's one of those things. Look at that. Totally forgot to use in here. He's held up pretty good for being outside. One of my odd props there. Now the final window here, once again, it's exposed to the sun a bit more. We have a bit of chipping here, but for being straight in the elements with no real, you know, covering, I consider that a win. Man, still looks as good as the days I put it in my books. Well, I know when I made this one, 2020, the concrete tombstone. It is held up absolutely spectacular. They're going to get my shadow there, so I apologize. But look at how good that is held up. There's not anything wrong with this. And even more so, the moss that I glued onto the edge when I built this has survived out in the elements with no real protection. You know, there's some down here still you can still see gently. But, you know, overall, everything has held up beautifully. The local robins use this as one of their favorite perching spots because it's protecting my lovely horse chestnut tree that got hit by a car this last winter. Somebody lost control of the road, swerved through, and ran over my tree. So I put my concrete tombstone there to protect it. You're going to think twice, aren't you? But it's turned out really nice. I'm really happy with how that looks. And you know, what a great prop for lasting a long time. And this is where we're going to finish off. These props have lived inside, so they've got the easy life, but such a huge array of stuff I've built over the last couple of years, you know. Regardless, thanks for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this update on how props age outside, because it's something that's usually not spoken about a heck of a lot, because a lot of props aren't made to stay out in the weather for too long. And, you know, I'm hoping that you can see where things fall down, where things get wrecked, and heck, it's a learning process even for me when I go to do all this stuff. Regardless, thanks for hanging out. Please remember to like, subscribe, and all that jazz, because you know it helps me a ton. Huge thanks to my patrons who send me a little bit each month to help me continue building all this craziness. And, you know, never stop building, because it's half the fun. Regardless, have a good one all.